Usually at the end of our service, we have a reading from the Apocrypha. I don't know if you've noticed or not, the last couple of weeks we've had them from the New Testament book of James, and that was done for a purpose, because I wanted to sort of talk about some of the things in James today. Now, to many of us who were raised in the Protestant tradition, the book of James is a little bit troubling. One of the hallmarks of the Protestant Reformation was that you are saved by faith in Jesus alone, not by works. Faith alone for salvation. That was one of the hallmarks of the Protestant Reformation. But yet the book of James says faith without works is dead. It goes on to say, what does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? So Protestants have always been a little uncomfortable with the book of James because it seems to be completely opposite to the emphasis on salvation by faith in Jesus alone. So today I would like to talk about that, and to do that, I'd like to just go a circular route and go back to the teachings of Jesus. We've talked before in here about some of the teachings of Jesus. Turn the other cheek, love your enemies, do good to those who do bad to you. And we've talked about how some of those things seem so unrealistic. They just don't seem like you can live like that. And there's other things that Jesus said, truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in their mind but believes that will happen, it will be done for them. Jesus said, everything is possible for one who believes. Jesus said, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Some of these teachings of Jesus just don't seem right. I mean, how could you live by turning the other cheek? And we all know, believe, it will be yours. How many times has that not happened? And so there's been a lot of disagreement within Christianity over the years about especially those last sayings that I talked about, if you believe. And people have thought about it, argued about it for years and years, and many possible interpretations have been proposed. Many of those possible interpretations have to do with your attitude. You should think positive. You should believe you will receive the things you ask, and that Jesus is really talking about a positive attitude. Jesus tells us we need to have a positive attitude. And there's a lot of talk today in the secular world about having a positive attitude. Books are written that tell you that the secret to success is your attitude, your self-confidence. You've got to project the self-confident attitude if you want to be successful in your job. If you're a physical therapist, for instance, you go into a client's home and they say, do you think you can help me? And you say, well, I doubt it. I don't think there's anything I can do for you. You can't expect anyone to have confidence in your abilities as a physical therapist. So self-confidence and projecting that is essential if you want to have success. So the conventional wisdom is that if you do not have a positive attitude, if you do not believe you can do something, then that's one of the prime determiners that's going to determine your failure. The idea is that if you believe you will fail, you probably will. And if you believe you will succeed, you at least have a better chance of success. Force yourself to think positive thoughts. Convince yourself you will succeed. Imagine yourself succeeding. Think like a millionaire and you will become one. I've seen people give talks. Visualize what you want to become and you will become it. Ideas like that are very popular in society. I remember one time, on the PBS channels, they have these people that sell books on these motivational things. I remember we were flicking through one time and wanted to stop on the PBS channel, and then some man was there. I can teach you how to change your thoughts. And if you change your thoughts, you can change your life. And so he could teach you that. It was your positive thinking. And And so when we see some of these things that Jesus says about believe, it might be tempting to think that Jesus is telling us about the power of positive thinking. But what if that's not what he was saying? What if he was saying something else? I want to leave the Bible for a minute and go to some things. I like to read these studies that people do. A study was done at the University of California, and students were fixing to take the exams. And they had one group of students, they were supposed to visualize going into the exam room, looking at the exam, oh, I'm going to do great on this. Positive attitude. And then they visualized themselves getting a high score on that exam and walking out so proud of themselves. Now, the other group of students weren't supposed to visualize anything. They were the control group. When the exam was over, on average, the people who visualized themselves doing well on the exam didn't get any higher grades than the people who didn't. In a New York University study, a group of graduating seniors was asked to visualize themselves getting their dream job and getting a good job. And they did. But on average, they didn't get any better jobs than the students who were in the control group that did not visualize. Now, granted, these studies are not really what I call scientific studies. Even if they were, nothing's really. But, so there are no studies really that bear out the power of positive thinking. There are no studies that bear out that a positive attitude is a factor in success. And the reason, though, that we think a positive attitude should be a factor in success, though, comes from another belief. And that is the belief that our emotions cause our behavior. In other words, that our state of mind is what causes us to act the way we do. Now that seems so self-evident it would be ridiculous even to question it. Don't we smile if we're happy? Don't we cry if we're sad? That in and of itself seems to prove that our emotions control our behavior. Imagine if you're walking through the woods and you see a bear. Chances are you're going to turn and go back. Your emotion of fear of that bear caused you to turn around and go back. Your emotion caused your behavior. But in the late 1800s, a Harvard psychologist named William James proposed the idea that the link between behavior and emotions was a two-way street. That sometimes our behavior can cause our emotion. Now, when he first said that, people didn't pay any attention. But then in the second half of the 20th century, people started considering that maybe he might be right. An interesting study was done at Columbia Business School. A group of participants was told that they were to assume positions of dominance when someone came to their office, like putting their feet up on the desk. This right here is supposed to be a position of dominance. Putting your hands behind your head like that. Looking up when someone's talking to you is supposed to be a position of dominance. The other group was told to sit with their feet on the floor and look down and not look at the person speaking. They were supposed to take an attitude of submissiveness. And then they measured the testosterone levels. And the people who assumed the position of dominance, their testosterone levels increased. While the people that assumed the positions of submission, their testosterone levels decreased. And so just their behavior had physiological changes within their body itself. And other studies have been shown that confirm that our actions have physiological effects upon our bodies. It's not always that our actions reflect what's going on inside our bodies. Sometimes our actions can cause what's going on inside our bodies. that is true, then maybe if you act as if something is true, maybe it will tend to become true. Be sure and realize it's attitude. It's action, not attitude. It's not the things you think, it's the things you do. The determining factor is not a positive attitude. The determining factor is what you do. Studies have shown that if you act as if you are younger, your body will tend to maintain a youthful condition. If you act dominant, you will tend to become dominant. If you act happy, you will tend to be happier. And amazingly enough, if you act healthy, you will tend to become healthier. Your actions determine not only your emotions, but have physical effects on your body. I may have told this before, it's one of my favorite illustrations, but I used to get tickled at my grandmother. She was from the old school. Nothing made her madder than to go in the grocery store and see somebody leaning on the grocery cart like this, pushing him, leaning over. She'd come home. If I couldn't do any better than that, I'd just stay at home. There's no sense in that. You ought to stand up straight and push that cart like somebody. Now, she might have been from the old school, but I think she had a point there. You know, now I know that there are people who need that for physical assistance, but I'm not talking about disabled people. I'm talking about just lazy people. You know, she had no time for that stuff. So act as if something is true, and it will tend to become true. Whatever your attitude is, it doesn't matter. Whether you're confident or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's in your mind, it matters what you do. Now we're ready to go back to what Jesus said. Faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. Everything is possible to the one who believes. And then there's the key that I really am focusing on today, comes from the book of Mark. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Therefore, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Now, a lot of Bible translations will translate that as believe that you will receive it. But that's not right. The Greek actually says believe that you have received it. And so Jesus did not say believe that you will receive it, and it will be yours. He said believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Is it possible that what Jesus was saying was act as if you have received it and it will be yours? We've talked several times in here about love in the biblical sense not being a feeling or emotion, but about love being something you do. When the Bible talks about love, it's not telling you to feel love towards someone, it's telling you to act lovingly toward them. In the same way, in the Bible, belief is not just an emotion. Belief is active. It's not just something you agree with. Belief is reflected in action. If we believe, then that is reflected in our action. Belief results in action. That's why the book of James says faith without works is dead. Belief results in action. Some people talk about faith without works is dead in the sense of being saved, and that you need to do good deeds to be saved. But the word translated works there is a word that means just generally what you do. It's not a word that has specific meanings for religious rituals that you go through in order to be saved. It's a word that means what you do, how you live your life. The way I think it's easiest to look at it is if it's hot outside, and if I really believe it's hot outside, I'm not going to put on thermal underwear and a heavy coat to go outside and mow the grass. I'm going to dress in white clothes to go mow the grass. It would be stupid of me to say, it's hot outside, and go out dressed like it's January the 15th. That's faith without works is dead. That's belief being reflected in actions. If I really believe it's hot outside, then I'm going to dress accordingly to go out and mow the grass. And so what James is saying, if you really believe, you will act like you do believe. If we really believe the things we say we believe about God, we will act as though we believe them. If we don't, it means that we really don't believe it. If I'm in the house and I say, Wanda, how hot is it outside? And she says, it's 98 degrees. And I go walking out the door with thermal underwear and a heavy coat on, that's obvious I didn't believe what she said. So if you say you believe, but it's not reflected in your actions, it's obvious you do not believe. You see, the book of James says even the demons believe. Well, you know the demons believe in God. I mean, they know God's there. They believe in Jesus. They know Jesus is there. I've talked to people about religion before. I've talked to other people about somebody's religion. They said, well, I think he believes in God. Well, big deal. So what if you believe in God? Satan believes in God. The difference is that you're not just accepting something as true. The difference is it's reflected in your actions. The difference between the belief in God that Satan has and the belief of God in God that you have is that that affects your actions. Belief in the Scriptures always connotes action. It's not just agreeing something is true. Belief is something that is acted upon. It's something that causes you to do a certain thing. So when Jesus was saying, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours, he wasn't saying, think that you will receive it, have confidence that you will receive it, and it'll be yours. We can reasonably speculate that Jesus might have been saying, act as if you have received it and it will be yours. If you just ask for something in prayer and you believe you will receive it at some point in the future, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to do nothing. You're just going to sit there and wait on God to do something. But if you ask for something and then start acting like you have received it, you're doing something. There's a difference in there. I've seen people just sit around waiting on God to do something. Wait around for God to bless them in some way. They just sit there and expect something to fall out of the sky. Well, it doesn't work that way. Maybe what we should do is act as if God has already blessed us. Maybe what we should do is act as if we've already received it. Even though we haven't, we can act as if we have. And maybe that's what Jesus is telling us to do. Maybe that's what he's telling us to do. Not be passive and just sit around and wait. Now, I don't believe for a moment that this is a magic wand you can use to get anything you want. I don't believe you go out there and say, well, I'm going to act like I've got $10 billion net worth and start spending money. You're going to go bankrupt if you do that. But I do think it could have some application in parts of our life, especially in this part. In John 3, Jesus said, he that believes on the Son has eternal life. 1 John 5:12 says, whoever has the Son has life. 1 John says, God has given us eternal life. Those verses do not say that God will give us eternal life. And I read from Ephesians. We heard how God has lifted us up from the earth and seated us in heaven. It doesn't say God will do that someday. It says He has already done it. We have already been lifted from the earth and seated in heaven. We have already been given eternal life. You see a lot of sad things as you go through life. You see a lot of people's lives turn out daily. You know, I think the thing, though, that will be saddest of all is that if we live our lives without realizing that we already have the promises of God. What if when you get to heaven, you realize you already have the promises of God when you were on earth? Wouldn't that be sad to look back at your life on earth and think, gosh, I already had the promises of God and I didn't even realize. Maybe you already have the promises of God today. Maybe you just don't realize it. Maybe we should live our lives less looking forward to being in heaven and more realizing that we already have eternal life today.